From the combined crew of blindandroidusers.com and accessibleandroid.com, it's time for your favorite Android podcast. Kick back now and enjoy another fine episode from these fanboys and gals as they navigate Android from a blindness perspective. And now, here's your crew.
Hello and welcome to episode 232 of the Blind Android Users podcast. I'm Ed Green and I'm joined today by my co-hosts Warren Carr, Karine Kawan and Sally Kunders, and our special listener guest, Gary Malkonian. And we are coming to you on Saturday, the 16th of May, 2025. This is a busy one this week, folks. In our Android Basics, we look at the release of TalkBack 16. In our Spotlight section, we look at phones from Samsung and Sony and some releases and announcements from Google. And in our TalkBack highlights, John shows us one of the new features of TalkBack 16 where you can ask follow-up questions on image descriptions. Well, here we all are. How are you, Karine?
Hello, I'm doing well. Everything's going well here, but it's starting to be hot. So today, according to Google, we're having 35 degrees Celsius temperature. I don't think that it's really 35 degrees, but it's sort of hot. The good thing that we're not having high humidity, which is making the weather better than usual summer days when you have a lot of humidity. But yeah, it's going well. What about you?
Not too bad. It's been a quiet-ish week, and I'm away a lot next week, so having to pack and do things for that. Is it usually dry heat in Lebanon, or do you get the humidity?
Actually, it's related to the region that you are in. Here we are slightly close to the sea. We are considered as the heights which are close to the sea. So for this reason, we get some humidity. And we get foggy weather usually in the summer, but yeah, some areas are not humid, some areas are considered dry, but here it's considered sort of humid in summers, which is not that good.
No, that can be, especially when it's hot. If it's hot and wet, that's difficult. Sally, how are you?
Well, I'm doing great here. It's very hot for today. It's 30 degrees Celsius, and tomorrow it's going to be 15. What to say for that?
That's up and down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Warren, what are you up to?
Not too much. I think I have a little bit of an allergy. It seems like every time I cut my grass, I seem to have that. Other than that, I'm doing okay. I cut my grass yesterday, and sitting here, though, it's going to be like 64 degrees, somewhere in there. We have some rain, chances of rain today, something which is a welcome sight because we haven't been having any rains for a while. I think we had one last week, or was it early this week? I don't remember. But yeah, so we're going to be having some rain again today. And right now, we're sitting at 55 degrees, so can't complain.
I still don't understand why you cut your grass when you literally have yard children to do that for you. Like, you should just make them.
Well, my little girl, she does help me. We got 2 mowers, but sometimes, like yesterday, she was with her friends, so I cut it by myself.
Warren went to mow his yard grass. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just a good kid. Got to do what needs to be done. I'm not going to be waiting for someone. I want to get it done. I want to get it done now. So I think I come from that mentality.
So I could do that. I could go and get my beer from the fridge, but instead I make my daughter do it because that's what she's for.
Yeah, because you're a lazy bum.
Yeah, well, it's what it is, isn't it?
That boy.
Yeah. And my BFF is on as a listener guest. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing well. Sitting here drinking my tea with some honey, and it's raining here in California, and it's going to start cooking up next week. It's going to be in the mid-90s, so we'll have our roasted oven going next week. So
that's going to be warm, mid-90s.
Yeah. And it's not summer yet, so I'm I'm not looking forward to it. So
Hey
No.
Gary, what's the name of that honey of yours? You're there with honey.
we'll mention it off camera, off the show.
You and your
Okay.
you and your floozies, Warren. You can't impose on Gary's honeys. Like,
Well, he's sitting there drinking tea with honey, so I'm
I
just kind of
know.
wondering who the
But
hell she
your
is.
floozies, yeah, your floozies. Like, I think you need to maintain a degree of distance between your floozies and Gary's
Oh,
honeys.
brother.
They're Armenian, so you got to be careful.
Absolutely, yeah, I think so.
And now, the Android Basics segment. This is a segment where we discuss the things that power your device from behind the scenes. And now, here's this week's episode, Android Basics.
Well, we'll move on to our Android Basics this week, and it's quite a big one because we have had the release of TalkBack 16. And there are some really quite good features in this. We'll be demonstrating one earlier, but it is a consequential release. So if you don't have it yet, keep an eye out, and it will drop to your phone. Warren, do you want to kick us off?
Glad to. And TalkBack has been evolving, and frankly, I can't say enough good words about TalkBack. I know some people don't care about TalkBack, and I understand that, but there are a few issues that probably we're looking forward to seeing in TalkBack, especially when it comes to all that discriminate copying or selection on a non-edit field. I mean, that probably is one of the most important things that we haven't seen in TalkBack in quite a while, and I'm not saying it's here now, but apart from that, I think that we're on a good footing when it comes to what is going on with TalkBack here, because we've got a lot of Gemini integration into TalkBack and making things easier, especially, if you're one of those that like your images. And, I used to be one of those that didn't care about images and all of that. And I'd always said, hey, what do I need to know about images? But now using that, though, I realize where those guys that like images or image descriptions are coming from, because it also gives you that information that otherwise you wouldn't have known, maybe the kind of clothing the person is wearing, or what the object looks like, and all of that, the color, things like that, and other things surrounding it. And then going farther, including that follow-up questioning whereby one could either type or ask a verbal question. I think those are very important, and now I can see why people like the image description. So for me, I think that TalkBack has come a long way, and integrating all of these capabilities into TalkBack makes it something that is very good for anyone to use.
So I think the ask follow-up questions to the image is a really big thing about this update. So obviously you had in TalkBack 15 the ability to perform the image description, use online AI, but you couldn't do a follow-up. So that is huge. Also now, instead of just doing an image description, you can describe the screen and ask follow-up questions, which is really good. And another perhaps overlooked thing they've introduced is the ability to navigate tables, and this is really quite clever. So you can set the granularity or the reading controls, whatever you want to call it, to tables. And then when you swipe left or right, up or down, you are moving into the table. So swipe down, you're going by row. Swipe left or right, you're moving by column. And to get out of that, you do your little up and down or three-finger swipe left or right to change the reading control. So that's another good thing.
In addition to that area, which is a very important one also, is Braille users, for example. There are some improvements in that department as well, where you could see or use that, see the notification history, and all of that using your Braille device and all of that. So I will say overall, this release is not a slouch by any stretch of imagination. It's a good thing that we have, and so many other improvements on there. And another thing that I've been asking about that for a while we never had was that ability to assign a gesture to spell the last spoken phrase. For example, prior to this, you had to go into the TalkBack menu and tap on spell last spoken utterance or whatever. And I found that very annoying, and I was complaining about that. And we finally have that. So I think for me, this is a good thing. Another thing that we got to fix for is, I know that Karine and Sally and you guys like those emojis and the, all that good stuff. So, for example, someone would put smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, several times. I find that very annoying. And now we have it fixed to where if you have 4 or more of such reoccurrences of that, it will tell you the number of those things. So I think that's a good
it even works with punctuation. So if you have like 4 or 5 colons, it'll say 4 colons instead of colon forever.
What I'd like them to do, I think, is to treat emojis as punctuation. So if you set it to some, like most emojis are suppressed, I think that would be quite good. But people like emojis, so I doubt they'll do that.
They can make it differently by having a custom setting to turn off emojis or to keep them. So they will be separate, but toggleable.
Yeah, they could do that.
Yeah, I was going to say you'd have to ask Karine and Sally to see how that ought to be, because they're my emoji guys.
I don't mind emojis, but I'd like, sometimes you need to turn them off because people get silly.
You know what's the problem? The problem is in people who are using, especially those Joshua users who are using the voice typing, AI voice typing extensions that are becoming very popular, and they are using emojis. And the problem is that these AI services just put emojis everywhere. So after each word or after several words, you will get an emoji, which is becoming so much annoying. So I hope that people will stop using this, because it's really making reading messages tedious, and it's making things really annoying. So I don't know why are they doing this, but it's really annoying.
It is really annoying. But it's a great release. So the fact you can ask follow-up questions, you can ask by voice. There's a there's a text and a voice button. You can describe the screen, which is amazing. So you don't just have to describe an image or a control. You can do that. I assume you can assign a gesture to describe screen. I haven't done it, but I'd be surprised if
you can. You can assign a gesture as well. What you can do, I use this a lot with the describe on screen. Is what I do is with the CGM. You know how you have the graphs that are not accessible. With TalkBack. So what you do is you do a describe by screen, and Gemini on real time will take the graph, describe the entire graph, bullet points if the graph is trending upwards or downwards, and then you can ask it questions as well.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, a CGM is continuous glucose monitoring. Gary and I are both diabetic, so you can look at the graph that's in your diabetes app and have TalkBack describe that by the sounds of it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And TalkBack 16 is rolling out gradually, and obviously you can take the risk and install it from an APK. And Karine, John posted that on Telegram this week with potentially dire consequences, didn't he?
I will not be the one that you are willing me to be. I will be in John's defense, so don't try to say anything about John.
It's a wind-up.
It worked pretty well, and I'm using it now, actually. and it's really great. It's better than updating from the Play Store. No, not to this extent. Actually, I advise people not to update using an APK just because if there's any problem, just like it's better to wait for the update to hit your device. But the update, at least for me, it's working. But tell them about what they should do, because actually I forgot this completely until you just talked about it.
I will, but first of all, tell them who saved you.
Saved me? Actually, what saved me is that I'm using a Samsung device and I'm using G-Show. So I just went back to G-Show and I uninstalled TalkBack and continued my life until you came with the idea, or with the workaround, or actually it's what should be done, and I was able to install it again. So I hadn't have any issue.
So what happened was, John pasted the APK and it didn't work on either mine or Kareem's phones. And I remembered, I don't quite know why I remembered, but there was an article on Accessible Android about an installer that would let you install G-Show and bypass all those annoying turn on, the restrictions that Google pays on accessibility apps. I'm like, interesting. I wonder if I install it using this package installer, will that install TalkBack and bypass all those restrictions that stopped TalkBack working? And it did. And I told Kareem, so she didn't want to say that I saved her on the TalkBack thing, but I did. But the package installer idea was posted on Accessible Android for use with G-Show, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, because probably if you are going to install it as an APK, this installer seems to be the way to get it to work immediately.
I want to clarify just one thing, which is this thing is happening because of the restricted settings thing that you know about. Actually, it's since Android 13, but on Android 13 there wasn't that strict thing, so you could just update and it will work. On Android 14, this is not the case. So whenever you want to update something from outside of the Play Store, if it's an accessibility service, you have to re-enable restricted settings, except if you just update using a third-party installer. The one that you had talked about is, actually I don't use it, but it's the one that is recommended or is suggested actually in the article. The good thing about it is that you can use it to open the APKs directly, so you don't need to go to the app and select the APK, but there are other alternatives. So the thing is that until now, using third-party installers bypasses this restriction. So if you ever use another third-party installer like Skit, it will work, but Skit doesn't have any option to use it to be the default one that you open the APKs with. So yeah, the point is just if you have any third-party installer, it should work, whether it's Skit, up to down, the one that you talked about, or like any other installer. I think APK Mirror, so the APK Mirror installer also should work.
I'm not sure they all do work though. That was sort of the point of the article, wasn't it? Like the guy had tried quite a few. Maybe you're right. Maybe they do work, but that was why he wrote the article, because some of them wouldn't work.
No, actually, what happened is that the guy found this workaround. He also wanted to share it with people because people were just trying to update, and the G-Show was stopping. So they had to re-enable it each time, to re-enable the restricted settings. So he talked about it as an example. So he based the explanation on this example, but this is not the only one that works. Actually, others work, and I actually use Skit.
Oh well, that's good. I'm glad there are more options, but yeah, we might not then link to it in the show notes because some of the third-party externals will work, but it's good you have options. But yeah, do consider that when you are installing an off-piste app, if you like, not from the Play Store.
And as Karen said, that skit is a great app. And, we demoed that skit maybe a couple of years ago on our site. And it's one of those great apps you could use in installing things of this nature if you find yourself in a bind. So, and that APK mirror Karen mentioned is another good one to use. So yeah, we've got a lot of options out there. And I'm glad we're talking about this because there are people out there that are impatient and wouldn't wait. And so we'll need to sideload. So use one of these to get you through all the barriers.
Regarding TalkBack, what's new stuff? Actually, one thing is related to the table navigation that you already talked about before. It's possible also to use a gesture that takes you to the next or previous. So you can assign a gesture to the next row or to the previous row, also to the next or previous column. So it will take you directly to the next or to the previous column or row. Also, it's possible to add columns and rows to the reading controls. So instead of using this new table navigation thing, which alters the usage of the swipes, right and left swipes, you could just use rows and columns as reading controls. So you move to rows, and then you swipe down like you do usually with reading controls to end up to move between the rows, and the same with columns. So this is one thing regarding table navigation, which is actually good, and it's making things customizable, which is really nice. And another thing is related to grouping of symbols, repeating symbols or repeated symbols, which you already also mentioned. But one thing I want to add, which is not good actually, is that this grouping option is not working except with Google TTS, which is not good at all for us who are not using Google TTS. Even if you try to use it with OTTS, it won't work. I mean, if you use Google TTS with OTTS, this won't work. So what you are left with now is the option is disabled for us who are not using the Google TTS. So before, because it wasn't customizable, we could just hear the number of repeated symbols and then the symbol. Now, because it's toggleable, we can't do anything. So we actually if we have, like, for example, 4 commas, we will hear comma, 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 comma. So this is becoming annoying because we are unable really to use repeated symbol grouping. So I hope that Google will do something about this and stop making things just Google TTS exclusive, because this is the third thing that's just working only with Google TTS. The first thing is the suggestion or the spelling of the suggestions when you are moving between the suggestions of misspelled words. You can't hear the spelling except if you are using Google TTS. The second thing is the punctuation customization, some and all, none. No, there's no none. Some, most, and all. This usually doesn't have any effect on other TTS engines. So now it's the third one, which is the inability to toggle the grouping of repeated symbols on or off. So yeah, it's not good.
Now, Karen, don't you like that song about comma, 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 whatever? I don't want to talk about that song, but it's from the UK.
Culture Club.
But yeah, actually, I see where you're coming from, because I didn't realize that because I was using Google TTS. And so it does make sense if this is something that could be controlled directly from TalkBack itself, instead of making it parser through the TTS engine, which needs to be that Google TTS. So yeah, it does make sense to kind of look into that again. I'm glad you brought this up.
And one thing I forgot about, we all actually forgot about, is the addition of something related to hardware keyboards. So it's now possible to use the search key as a modifier key. I don't use external keyboards. I don't care, but actually this is good for some people. This should be good for some people. So this is one thing. You can customize this from you can set this from the Google keyboard shortcut settings. I think this section is in advanced settings. So you can set the modifier key from there. And the other addition is the two shortcuts that are to go to the previous or to the next visited link. I honestly don't remember what are the shortcuts, but there are two shortcuts to move between or to move to the next or previous visited link. I mean, keyboard shortcuts.
Talking about keyboard support, I think I want to give a little shout out to Dennis Long. Dennis always wanted better keyboard support. So I think in our podcast now, maybe we'll start a little segment of a shout out to a member. And so for the first time, a shout out to Dennis about keyboard support. There you go, Dennis. You have your keyboard support here. Maybe go in there and see if you customize that and modify that keyboard.
I don't think they'll have done what everyone wants in keyboard support, which is, I don't use a keyboard either, so I'm like Karina, I don't really care. But what I think they need is the thing that everyone else has. So you don't need a modifier key. You need, Jules would call it virtual cursor. NVDA would call it focus or whatever. Quick nav is what iOS calls it. So if you are in a web environment, people want to press letters. They don't want modifiers or search keys. So whether they will ever do that, I'm not sure, but I suspect that is what folks want.
Yeah, but as it is, you can already use those, later navigations on the web page with the keyboard. But
you
I
can't
think
though, because you have to hold two keys, not one key. Like people want to press letters, like you have to hold a modifier or a search. You can't do it.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, so that makes
can't.
sense. If we
It's the only operating system you can't do it.
Yeah,
like
so,
literally the only one. They need to fix it.
So I think though what they're doing here is if you don't like using the Alt key, you could use something else, and that's where the search key comes in. I think that if people have the customization that they want, I think that's a better thing to do. But like you said, if we could just use those later navigation without any key combination, I think that would be a winner.
On the web, that's what they have to do. They have to do that. I don't know why they haven't.
Welcome to the Spotlight segment. This is a segment dedicated to interviews with developers or interesting happenings in the world of Android. And now for this week's episode, here's your Spotlight.
And now we move on to the Spotlight section, and it's a busy one this week. We have a couple of phones to talk about and some changes that Google have announced and things at conference and betas and all the rest of it. Where should we start? Should we start with the Samsung phone?
We should, and maybe Karine or Sally would take us down this Samsung land, and we're talking about the Edge here, Samsung Edge, and I don't know, frankly, I think that both Samsung and whoever that's trying to copy this, in my never to be humble opinion, I think that the best Edge phone or the person that introduced us to this slim phone is, Motorola back in 2016 with the Moto Z. I think that thing was at 5.2 millimeters, and I don't know that the Samsung one is even as thin as that one. So this is not a new thing.
Warren, my only concern about this phone is the battery being really a tiny battery, being 3,900 milliamps. Comparing, and it's not even using silicone carbonate, so I don't know how long will this thing last a whole day, or depending on how people use it. It's just a concerning thing. I don't know. It's not. I would prefer to see, bigger batteries, have it be a little thicker than having skinny phones that don't last all day long.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I think Samsung, though, probably is being a little bit cautious. Remember all that battery gate back in the Note 7, was it? Yeah, Note 7. So I think they're kind of being a little bit on the cautious side of things here.
And the price is very pricey. It's $1,100.
Yeah, and so I think that when it comes to all of this, the thinner the phone is, unless we have some other technology in battery capabilities, definitely are going to have a smaller battery. Because, for example, that Motorola Z that came in 2016 that I mentioned, that thing had, I think, like 2600 milliamp battery, and I could give them a pass because they had those little pogo pins or whatever, so you could add other mods on there, like say you want to add a speaker or you want to add some other mods on there. So as for that, I give them a pass on it, but for Samsung they could at least make it 4000 milliamp, which probably they could. But anyway, I think, like I said, they're probably being afraid of what happened with that Note 7.
Well, no, actually, the thing is that they are trying to make it as slim as possible. And this what made them actually use this battery. Actually, they are trying to beat Apple, and they did. They started before Apple. They released their phone before Apple. So this is one thing. And well, I don't know if people will like this. I mean, it's something different. This is, of course, this is obvious. This is a new series, let's call it. Actually, it's not Edge in any way. It's just slim. I don't know why they decided to use the word Edge, but it's a slim phone. It's really thin. I mean, if you look at it's 5.8 millimeters, which is something like other phones. Usually they start from 7 point something, and you call them thin if they are really starting from this thickness. So what can you say about 5.8, which is really, really thin? And they were able to include like some things from the S25 Ultra, which is good, including the main camera. They, of course, we can call it the S25 Ultra slim version, let's call it this way, because they also weren't able to include everything S25 Ultra, which is something which is normal actually, because of the like what they are trying to do is to create this thin phone, and they are trying to see what they can achieve in this term of thickness. So this is what they did, and for me, I like thin phones so much. I like a phone which is that slim and light, but
Yeah, you do.
not that battery at all. So if I'm going to choose between a thicker phone which has better battery, I'm going to use it, of course. So for this reason, I think they missed this. If they just added slightly, like maybe what would it include? I don't think that it would include. It won't add so much to the thickness, but having less than 4000 milliamp power, it's something like it's not good into 2025.
These guys here, they're touting this as, whatever. But like, I think they should, the credit should go to Motorola, because whether Apple or Samsung, they're adapting this. They're not the first on here. And I mean, we're talking 9 years ago when Motorola came up with this, and it was 5.2, not even 5.8. So nothing new here under the sun, right?
Well, here's the thing about this phone. You're making a slim phone, but the size is the same as like the flagship phones. And what is even more bothering is that they're going to replace the Plus, and instead of Plus, they will release Edge versions starting from S26. This is just a rumor, but even thinking about it made me so go mad. I'm using S25 Plus. Some people don't want to go for the regular base model or the Ultra, so Plus is the best for them. People like me, but no, if they're going to remove it and go with Edge, this is absolutely nonsense, since it's going to have less battery capacity comparing to the base model. So I don't see this as a good strategy for the future. So probably, I mean, it's maybe too early to say, but maybe my next one is not going to be Samsung.
I think I agree with what Karen said, though. They probably should have given it a different line instead of calling it the Edge, because frankly, it should have something that distinguishes it from the other ones. So maybe Samsung Slim, or whatever you want to call it, but definitely the Edge designation is probably not the best implementation or designation here.
Only time will tell, depending on how they do with sales. If the thing flops with sales, they go back to the drawing board and come up with something, a better product. That's how I think is going to be the eventual either downfall or success of this line.
And what you have to remember about Samsung as well is that they will cannibalize their own lines. So Samsung release so many phones. Yeah, they will. If it doesn't work, they will crowd other products into the market, won't they? That is what they do.
It's a trend, and it won't stay for long, I think, because as some reviewers are already saying, this is something that nobody asked for, actually. So people don't care. I mean, maybe people were caring like some years ago, but now people don't care. They want better batteries. They want, and something which is important here is, if you are having this phone and you want to protect it, you may be needing to use a thick case to like something durable. So it will actually defeat the purpose of the whole idea. So you will be getting at the end of the day something which is not as you wanted it to be. So I think this is also a problem. So I can say that I don't think that they will sell this device won't sell like they want it to be, because of actually also for example, now it's released. So if you look at I think the S25 Ultra is now the same price as this one. So because it was released earlier. So the thing is, I don't know, like there will be people who like this, but is the number actually something that they can count on? Actually, I think that most people will go with the S25 Ultra at that stage, and they will just forget about this one. So I'm really not sure what are they going to do, and if this thing is going to sell well. And I hope that it won't be selling well. Although as I said, I really like this type of phone, but when it comes to battery life, I think most people, including me, will just prefer the battery life. Even those people who are not tech savvy, who don't care, who just care about the design and will consider this design as something special, they will be put off by the idea of this very small battery.
I hear you, Karen, and frankly, in 2025, there's no way under heaven that I'll buy a phone with a 4,000 milliamp battery, unless of course it has some magic whereby it makes the battery last longer than one should expect from such a capacity. There's no way under heaven that I'll be buying a phone with 4,000 milliamp battery as my main daily driver. I can't see me doing that. Anything short of 5,000, it's not going to work. So I don't know. But most people probably wouldn't even know. I mean, I'm talking about the average Joe out there. Most people, it's just those of us who are Android enthusiasts that know about, these specs of the phone. Most people have no clue as to what the specs are. They just go there to the store, and the store person tells them, hey, look at what we got. They look at it, looks pretty. That's all that matters, right?
So it has the 8 Elite, Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is the same that we have in the S25 other devices. It's 163 grams, which is really great. I mean, it's something like nice to have it in a high-end device from Samsung. It's something great. At this year, I mean, in this year, you have to have something 163 grams. It's nice. It's the same as the S25 Ultra regarding the protection and the screen, except for the anti-reflective coating, which is not in the S25 Edge, which is some people want to be happy with because of the legibility that you get under sunlight when you in bright environments when you are using the S25 Ultra because of this anti-reflective coating. It's IP68 water and dust resistant, which is also good. We are talking about 6.7 inch. I think the S25 Ultra is 6.8, so it's like the S25 Plus. It's having the Corning Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 protection. I think it will be getting the 7 years of upgrades, like the other S25 series, if it can stay for that long because of the battery, actually. Regarding the RAM and the storage, we are talking about 256 gigs of storage with 12 gigs of RAM, or 512 gigs and also 12 gigs of RAM. So there's no 8 gigs of RAM, which is good, but there's no 1 terabyte. Warren, sorry about that. And the cameras actually
what a letdown! What a letdown!
So you can't buy this device.
No, I can't.
So and regarding the cameras, the main camera should be the same as the one in the Ultra, but it's not the same one that you get. The ultra wide is not the same one. Well, most people don't care. I mean, most blind people don't care about that, because it should be capable actually to take good photos anyway, especially and for actually it should be capable of getting you some decent photos for OCR. So even if it has this downgrade, and so these are the important things about this device. So let's call it, actually it doesn't have the S Pen, of course. So let's call it it's similar to the S25 Plus in some areas, and similar to the S25 Ultra in some other areas. So yeah, it's combination between some Ultra features and some Plus features.
Sony has also released a phone, or at least announced it for pre-order, which is the Sony Xperia 1 Mark 7. And as for Sony, it's another amazing phone, hardware-wise. It's quite expensive, at least in the UK, though, almost £1,400 for a phone that's going to be 256 gig and I think 12 gigs of RAM. There are rumored to be 512, 16 gig variants. I'm not sure if they are available in your market, but they supposedly exist. It apparently has 4 years of software updates and 6 years of security updates. I do love Sony phones. I do love the hardware, but they are awfully, awfully expensive.
Hooray for Sony. They're finally trying to catch up some, especially there in that update department, 4 years of OS support and 6 years of security patches. I think that's Sony finally rolling around. And the one thing, though, even though I don't see me buying a Sony phone, even though I would love to, the only thing that holds me back from buying the Sony phone is neither the price nor whatever, but that fact that I like being on the cutting edge of the OS and all of that. I just couldn't see me doing that. But the one thing I like about them that no one else is doing, and all of these thieves that are cheating us, they got that headphone jack and they also have that SD card. So frankly, in as much as I don't care about Sony, I think I tip my hat off to them, because they really have kept, that the faithfuls, believing in them, and by keeping these two features of the phone that now these companies have removed away from us, because they now want us to pay subscription models to have all the that cloud storage and all of that. I mean, it's like this is so if whether you get a 256 gig of the internal storage of the Sony phone, this supports up to 2 TB of SD card. So if you got a 2 TB SD card and you slap that thing on, you got 2 point something whatever TB. And so frankly, all these thieves that are keeping us away from SD card, I know, Ed, you say, oh, you don't want a SD card, but I think Sony says different.
Well, the first thief was actually Google, because it's the first one who started this trend. So
Oh boy.
you
Yeah,
should be careful.
I should be careful. Well, but Google had never made bones about this, because from the get-go, they didn't include SD cards, right? Earlier on, they are the very first ones that didn't want SD card, of course. And I think maybe they were thinking down the road, we're going to be able to charge for this storage. So they were forward-thinking people. Hey, we should not get them used to this. Rather, we should just think down the road we're going to be charging money for the storage, and so we'll sell them this cloud storage and all of that. So I think, yeah, you're right. The first thief is Google when everyone else was doing SD cards. And then, remember those ads where Samsung was taunting the guys on the Fruitvale side of things that, hey, you guys don't have an SD card. And guess what? Samsung did the same thing. Kind of idiotic, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's an expensive phone though. It really is. Like, I mean, it's got some amazing features, but for quite, low internal storage, yeah, you can put an SD card in it, sure, but that's going to run slowly. I don't know. Like they're great phones. I love Sony's. I had the one 4 years ago. I think I had the Xperia 1 Mark III, and it's great. But I don't know, the price looks really high.
One of those, I don't remember which one it was, but one of them actually was like $2,400 or $2,500. So, yeah, so it is very expensive. But I've always said, they kind of try to live on past glory, basing it on the name and the brand and all of that. But yeah, when it comes to hardware, they do stuff right, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a bitter pill to swallow, and most especially with the limited number of years of updates. But I mean, like I've said, they've kind of improved now. 4 years is not bad. I think I would be able to live with 4 years if I really like the phone.
Yeah, I mean, the audio quality is amazing, especially if you use the right headsets, and they support so many codecs on Bluetooth to make that amazing. I'm not too fussed about that, but like this phone at 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gig storage is coming in at £1,400 in the UK, which is a lot. Like, that's an awful lot. I can get an S25 Ultra with 1 terabyte storage probably for less than that.
What's the amount in dollars?
I don't know.
$1 equals how much? How many dollars?
Yeah, well, it's not always priced like that, even if it does. So it's about 1.2, normally 1.3, but that's not necessarily how it's
I'm
priced.
trying just to get the average price.
Yeah.
Which is it's about like 1,500 something.
Yeah.
No, that's what it'd be more than that.
Yeah, but what they will do, usually they may not even charge it based on the conversion, from the pounds. They charge it, based on the region. So they may decide to charge it at the same price at maybe 13 something here in the States.
Alexa says it's 1,800 odd. So whether they charge that or not, it looks expensive, even though like the hardware is amazing.
Another problem is that it's not available in all countries. Actually, its availability is very limited, and they just they left some countries a few years ago. So actually, I don't know. And maybe Google has better availability in countries, and how poor is
Exactly.
Google.
Like, I think they will be selling mostly in Asia and Japan.
And one thing I haven't checked, and I know everyone thinks this is amazing, they used to have the fingerprint sensor in the side button. And I always hated that. I think a fingerprint sensor should be either on the screen or on the back. Because if you want to unlock your phone just to see what's on your lock screen, you have to use the wrong finger. Otherwise, your phone will actually unlock. And that's not necessarily what you want. So I haven't actually checked whether that's changed on the 1 Mark 7, but I don't think a fingerprint sensor should ever be on the unlock button.
It's just
It's still the same. Yeah.
placement. Yeah.
Well,
But
it shouldn't be.
Ed, you and I are the one that hate that implementation. I don't like that either. But yeah, that's still the case. They haven't gone back. Sony's very stubborn. They believe in their traditions, and so hey, we're not going to change this. We're talking Sony here. We are Sony, so we keep it, consistent.
They're lovely phones, though, folks. I have owned the 1 Mark 3. They are lovely hardware, just ridiculously expensive. And now we'll move on to talk about some other things in the Spotlight section. We'll talk about Android 16 Beta 4.1, won't we, Warren?
We do. And of course, that same day that Google dropped that Android 16 Beta 4.1, it was that very same day that we have that Android show, the Google I/O whatever to next week's Google I/O. So they had the Android part of it because that's going to be so much there on that day when we get to hear what's going on in Google I/O, which tells me that lots of all of that is going to be about the AI. But yeah, so we had that dropped on the same day on Tuesday, the 13th. Was it Tuesday, the 13th? Yeah, that was it. So there are some 9 fixes there, Ed, and I think you and I were thinking that Google is going to roll out the final public release of Android 16 on the Google I/O. But now I think you and I are wrong. It's going to be that June. I think they're keeping to that June release. Yeah, release.
Yeah, they've said, haven't they? They've announced it.
Yeah, they did.
I think. Yeah, we were wrong.
So, but for the little update, there were 9 issues here that were fixed with that 4.1 update. And here are the list of those bugs that were fixed. So 1, fixed an issue that impacted haptic performance. 2, fixed an issue that impacted 4K video recording at 4x telephoto. 3, fixed the weather map disappearing. 4, fixed lock screen shortcut triggering with a single tap. 5, fix an issue where the microphone indicator is stuck on the on. 6, fixed an issue where audio fails to play from the NDK. 7, fix a constant battery drain. I think all of us can speak to that, which is a good one. 8, fix a black navigation bar appearing on transitions. And last but not the least, fixed a Google app crash when loading a website. So those are the 9 fixes there. We'll put the URL in the show notes.
Thank you, Warren. Is there anything else we want to say about Android Show from this week?
Well, the Android show talked a lot about some of the developments going on. Of course, we saw the demonstration of Gemini and some of those things, as well as that headset, the XR thing. So I think that we're going to see a lot of stuff during the Google I/O, but it's going to be so massive that I think they decided to do this early so that it's not in the way. But I think we have exciting stuff coming on that we may be seeing, but I'm looking forward to all those improvements and things like that. But what I don't like, Google always says that to be coming later this year or in a few months, and sometimes a few months wind up being a year or better. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
And now, for the faithfuls, this is a native Android screen readers segment, simply referred to as TalkBack Highlights. This is where some new feature or new happening with TalkBack is featured. And now, here's your newest TalkBack highlight.
And now we move on to the TalkBack highlights section. And John shows us a feature we've already discussed about TalkBack 16, which is the follow-up questions with Gemini.
Hello. In this edition of TalkBack Highlights, I'm going to show you a new feature that was introduced in TalkBack 16, which is follow-up questions for Gemini image descriptions. Right now I am on a photo, and the way you bring up the description is the same as it has been. You can either select Describe Image from the TalkBack menu, or if you have a gesture assigned to it, you can use that gesture. I'm just going to go ahead and use the TalkBack menu.
TalkBack menu. Page navigation.
And I'm going to find
Add label. Describe image.
Describe Image and double tap.
Detected image. A family of 3 is posing for a selfie, all smiling brightly. The man on the left has short dark hair and is wearing a maroon t-shirt. The child in the center has short brown hair and is wearing a gray shirt with cartoon beetles on it. The woman on the right has long, brown hair and is wearing a white and black striped shirt with a beige cardigan over it. They appear to be sitting on a dark leather couch.
And I'm just going to swipe right to show you what has changed in the interface here.
Thumbs up button. Thumbs down button.
So as you can hear, you can now rate the response with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Continuing on.
Ask Gemini button.
Here's a button you can press to ask it using your voice. And I'll just give you an example. What color are the woman's eyes?
The woman's eyes are brown.
And then you can hit it again to ask a different question. How handsome is the man?
I am programmed to avoid making subjective assessments about people's appearance.
So it did understand the question. How many beetles are visible on the child's shirt?
I can see at least 3 beetles depicted on the child's shirt.
You mentioned the man's shirt was maroon. Can you tell me anything else about the shirt?
The man's shirt appears to be a simple casual t-shirt with a crew neck.
That's probably right. My shirt is pretty boring. But I'm going to show you, if you don't want to use your voice to ask, you can swipe right.
Type question button.
And you can type a question here. So just to show you how to do it.
Showing Braille keyboard. W-H-A-T. What? C-O-L-O-R. Color. I-S. Is. B. B. C. O-U-C-H. Question mark. Submitting text. Couch question mark. Keyboard hidden. The couch appears to be a dark color, possibly black or dark brown.
So as you can see, it submitted the question when I swiped up with 2 fingers on the Braille keyboard, but if you're using a different keyboard, or if you just dismiss the keyboard, you can always swipe right to the
Send button.
Send button, and that will ask the question for you. And then to the right of this,
Close button.
is close, or I should say, if you swipe right, I think it's technically below everything. And you can either double tap this to get out of the interface or do the back gesture. That brings us to the end of this demonstration. I'm really enjoying this new feature. It makes an awesome feature even better. Again, this was introduced with TalkBack 16. Thanks for listening.
So there are things that I want to talk about here regarding this image description thing and the follow-up questions. Actually, it's a great feature. It's not something that we can actually discuss if it's good or not, because it's actually something great. They are taking image descriptions to the next level using this or through this addition. One thing that I didn't like is that first, Google didn't reveal the model that is that this image description and follow-up questions is using. So I hope to know which Gemini model is used. This is one thing, and the other thing, actually, the problem here is in the database that it's using. It's old, so according to the model itself, because I was able to ask it, and it was able to give me the answer actually, and it told me that it's in something, I don't remember actually the exact month, but it was something in 2021, maybe December or September, I don't remember, but it's 2021. So if you're trying to ask it about most recent or the recent events, it won't give you information because it's outdated. Its data is already outdated. Its training data set is outdated. So this is something, it's not a big deal actually, because usually you will ask it about like things to be described. It's not really that type of chat that you will just talk about stuff like asking about what's happening or something. But it's also good to have it like using a most recent updated like version. It's better. It was like, it's good. I mean, John was able already, or showed us already, the capabilities, especially with respect to people. It's describing people in a good way. It's not having sort of restrictions, the annoying restrictions regarding asking about people and giving information. Actually, Gemini itself doesn't have this issue, even when you are using other things that are not actually blind related, like the camera live feature and other stuff. So it's good. Well, it's also the answers that you get are good, but talking about the other thing, which is the entire screen description, it's having some issues. Actually, it was hallucinating icons on my home screen. I don't know why it decided to say that there are these icons on the screen, although the icons that it talked about are actually some famous apps icons, which it shouldn't like shouldn't have to have this issue with respect to icon identification. But I mean, the great thing about this Gemini thing and image descriptions, it's very, very, very quick, because when you are using the G-Show one, you have to wait sometimes for about a minute or less. Sometimes it's less actually, but you have to wait. Even if you're sharing something with other apps like Be My Eyes and other apps, you have to have slight waiting. Here, it's almost instantaneous. So this is really, and usually like it's something that's happening constantly. So not like this time you will wait, tomorrow you won't, or after 5 minutes you won't wait. It's always like very quick, which is something really we should praise Google for, because it's something really great not to need to wait when you are just checking something quickly and you want to get this description which will not actually disrupt your workflow at all when you are just getting the description and closing, and it's really great.
Yeah, and I think you made an important point. Like, does it matter if it's up to date or not? I mean, in certain instances, it might, probably in the follow-up stuff. But if what you want is, a quick description, and it is only describing the image even when you follow up, well, it would be great if it was up to date to 2025. But if it isn't, you perhaps use another AI engine to do the things you need that to do. It just needs to do a description of the image, doesn't it?
The whole idea is to describe or give follow-up responses to what is being described, not asking something that is outside of that image. So it really doesn't matter what model it is using. So for me, I think as long as it gives me relative information as to what's going on the screen, I think that's the whole intent. I'm not going to ask it something outside of that screen, because if that was what I want, then I'll just use Gemini to do that.
But it would be better if it was using the latest Gemini, that you will get better descriptions, even though, whatever we're asking on screen. Are those orange cheeks? Are they chubby cheeks? Am I pulling Warren's cheeks?
Yeah, but Ed, the thing is saying ask a follow-up question. You're asking a follow-up question about what is on the screen. So
on the image,
it doesn't make sense to ask something that is not relating to what is being viewed. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. But the model, a better model might be able to better interpret the thing on the screen.
but we don't know for sure what it is. But the question is, does it give me answer to what I'm asking? The follow-up question.
Sure.
That's what matters. It
Yeah, of
doesn't
course.
matter what I'm trying to ask that is outside of that. That's not the intent.
No, I know, but like it gets its information from all sources, doesn't it? So you could have a Chat GPT like 3 model, and it would give you a fairly basic description. It is probably better to have the best model you can applied to the picture on your screen. Like there's
But we got to keep
there's-
in mind that this thing is something that is free for everyone. Some of the most capable models are paid versions, and you're not going to expect someone that does not have this. So for me, frankly, this is good enough, and there's nothing here to complain about.
No, absolutely, it's great. But also, you're sort of acknowledging by saying that there might be a marginal differential if you could have the paid model. So I think, well, Google will use its own what do you call them, API keys to query the the TalkBack image descriptions. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, but Warren, you were talking about the free and paid stuff. So actually, it's not bad to give TalkBack users the ability to use paid models. It's not at all bad. Google has the ability to do this. I don't say I wasn't saying, and I won't say that Google the image description provided in TalkBack is not good, or that the follow-up questions is not good. Actually, this is not the thing, but Google is able to. And other than that, there are free models that everyone can use, and Google could use them. So, for example, the 2.0 Flash and the 2.5 Flash preview, people can use it in the free version. So it's not really a problem, but being able to benefit from the recent models is something good. I mean, they have to rely on something stable enough. They shouldn't use previews. They shouldn't use the new versions, the versions that they are still just not stable. It's understandable, but it's good to always give the TalkBack users this flavor of updated stuff, because we rely on image descriptions, and the description itself will be impacted by the model that is used. And I'm going to do comparisons between the Gemini app and the Google TalkBack descriptions, and I think that I'll find that the Google TalkBack descriptions aren't going to be as rich and as the Gemini descriptions. I'm almost sure about that, but of course we can't give assumptions. It should be just something that we have to do tests, and after conducting the tests, to talk about it.
Yeah, and you need to decide whether that matters. Sometimes it might, but obviously if you're like flicking through your Facebook feed, you want a quick image description. You don't really care about what the thing is. It's not like, I mean, you do care because you're on your Facebook feed, but you're swiping, right? So maybe that's fine. Maybe when you're doing Gemini descriptions to describe a scene you care about, or to even give you a description of a document you care about, or whatever you're using Gemini for, that might be a more deliberate act. So maybe that's fine.
You're making a good point here. I think, we should put this into consideration, because also the speed will be impacted if you're using another model or a newer model. This could be impacted. Maybe they try to go for something light and effective, so they could give people quick responses. And I said it, actually, the responses are really swift. You get really prompt responses. You get something that you don't have to wait for. So it's something good, and it's for Google. Like as I was saying, we should say that Google really did a good job here.
All good things must end. Thus, it's curtain drawing time, bringing us to the close of this week's episode. Coming up, though, we give you information on how to get hold of us.
So, John, how do people get in touch with us?
To contact us, simply send an email to contactus@blindandroidusers.com. If you'd prefer, you can leave a voicemail by calling +1 307 202 9797. You can join our mailing list by sending a blank email to blindandroidusers+subscribe@groups.io. You can join our Facebook and Telegram groups or subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links in the podcast show notes or YouTube video description. And you can find all of this information and more at our website, blindandroidusers.com.
That's it for this week, folks. Say bye-bye to the nice people.
Bye, everyone. And Gary, thanks for coming on as our first listener guest appearance program. And guys, if you want to come, let us know at least a couple days before, and we'll send you the URL from which to join us if you want to come on as guest.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Same here. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Blind Android Users Podcast. Until we see you next week, don't forget to leave us your comments and suggestions via our email contact or using any of our social media sites. Have a great week.